Welcome back, Paint for Your Soul fans. Happy to see you again. I've got a brayer, a paint spreader, my jelly pad. Normally I do a 6-week spread and I use things that were printed previously. Today I want to shake that up a bit and show you in one video. Let's print the tissue papers here instead of making you go to another video to see how to do it. So we're going to, because I'm running out of my supply actually, so I thought it'd be nice. So I used the stencil last week with my modeling paste, and I used the right end of it. Now I'm using the top end of this for monoprinting on the jelly plate. I've placed it so that it fits within the jelly plate and fits that whole top and bottom edge. And I'm pressing downward. I'm trying not to rub back and forth too much because this isn't copy paper. This is tissue paper, so it's fragile. And I'm pressing down especially in the intricate areas. That's the first pull. It looks pretty good. But there is residue paint there, so I'm going to pull that up with another tissue paper here and making an effort to find all those areas where the remaining paint needs to be lifted off. There we go. And anything that didn't, all those tiny, tiny details, it's worth taking that tissue paper again and pinching it down on top of those intricate spots. I really like this. It's going to be very useful. I like it a lot. I like that it's a little bit distressed and mottled in the middle. And I'm pressing down and I'm waiting 5 seconds because I found with tissue paper that extra little weight helps keep it adhered to the tissue paper when you pull it up. There's a little bit of residue that was left over from the jelly plate from previously. So I put some water on there and I'm trying to scrape it away, but don't scratch. Use the tissue paper and your fingernail on top of that so that you don't scratch. The jelly plate, if you scratch it, it could be permanently scratched. The water didn't work perfectly, so I'm using rubbing alcohol, and that always works really well. So I'm pressing hard. Any of that yellow that you see there, that's behind the jelly plate. That's not on it, so I think it's fairly clean. And then I'm using a plain spray of water over top to get rid of the alcohol because it's a bit sticky. Now I'm starting off with a coat of paint and rolling it on with the brayer. Probably a little heavier than I need, but I'm okay. I'm not using my high flow acrylic white because that would be too runny and it could slip underneath the print. And make sure you put this back the right side so that the painted side from before is on the underneath. So I'm just doing a second pull because I like that so much I wanted another option. So we'll put our first tissue paper down and press down, trying to get all of those white areas of paint onto the tissue paper. And especially pressing where the fine details are. So that's pretty good. It actually pulled up a little better than the first time. Getting any residual paint up with this tissue. And I do not throw that piece of tissue away. It's full of distressed little marks that I might use someday on one of my spreads. So let's pull this up. And if my plan worked, there'll be less residue from the previous jelly plate on it. Every time you do this, it cleans the jelly plate more. So that's really good. There's only a very tiny little bit there that picked up from the jelly plate from before. So let's go at it again. Now I'm speeding this up because you know the drill by now. And I picked this stencil that's got that wonky script that's very similar to what I already use as a script already. That's why I bought it. It's very it's very much what I would do myself. And I'm pressing down because this is so intricate. There's so many fine details. It's a little bit harder to press down. So as you can see, there's a lot of residue paint there. So I need to put tissue down and press hard and hope that some more of that residue comes up on this. Dab, dab, dab. And I used that grid on the bottom because there was that extra band of white there, and I thought I don't want to waste it. I really like that. I think that'll be very useful. It's already popped into my head a use for this on a spread, so I don't know if you use it today or tomorrow, but I'm pretty happy with it. Pressing straight down firmly, waiting for 5 seconds, even though I sped that up, pulling it up, and look how clean that plate came off. That's beautiful. I like the juxtaposition of the script and then the grid. Let's do it again. Sometimes it helps with blobs of white paint to smudge the brayer around a bit. I'm rolling some of the white paint off onto that tissue because it was too heavy, and then rolling back onto the brayer. So it made a lighter layer of white. So I'm going to put this grid stencil on, or basket weave, I'm not too sure what it's called. And instead of wasting the bottom there, I'm putting some more of a stencil there because why not? I might want that, I might not. I'm only dabbing lightly because I want some random squares. I like that. And then I'll press again to get the rest of it. I don't like a perfect stencil. I do like that it's random and distressed and inconsistent. That's just kind of my MO. Makes it feel more organic when it's that way. I don't like things too contrived. There's so much paint on there that I was able to do 3 pulls on this. Pressing down really hard, waiting a few seconds. There we go. I like that randomness. That's really fun. I know down the road I'm going to have lots of uses for that. So I took a scrap bit of tissue and I'm lifting that on the bottom. I didn't like that tissue was too wet and convoluted, so I threw it out. Here's my ghost print, and I know this is going to be useful. Quite like it. Came off pretty clean, didn't it? I like that a lot. So you've got the left and the right there. The one is the opposite of the other. Smudging the blobs of paint around a little bit. I had almost too much paint there. Now I've got what, I don't know what the name of this one is, but I'm calling it spider web. And there are 2 sections of it. I'm going to use this outside section, which has got very big patches of white. And then on the next print, I will do the more intricate area. That's fun. And again, lifting off that residual paint. And I like how distressed this is. This is going to be quite useful as well. I like it. Don't throw that away. So I've got now what's left of it is just the fine spiderweb lines. Not sure when I'm going to use it, but I know I will. I've done this for so many years now that I know the kinds of things that I like, and that will be handy someday. Might not be in the next month, but it will happen. I just keep it in my stash, and someday I will leaf through there and I'll go, wow, that's a perfect little piece. So keep everything. Keep it all. Again, I rubbed off some of the excess paint onto tissue and re-rolled the jelly plate so it was a little bit less thick of paint. Now I've got the more intricate area of that spiderweb stencil. Again, I don't think it's called spiderweb, that's just my name. Pressing firmly down so that all those white patches get up all the paint. Pretty good. There's a little bit of residual, which I'm picking up now, finding the spots that need to be lifted. And this is an interesting piece of tissue. I am not throwing it away because there's a big scar, like jagged line in the middle, and I have a feeling someday I might need that. Who knows? Who knows? I won't know until I need it. So let's pick up some more of this fine spider web. This is great. I'm going to have 2 pages now that will have this very fine lined spider web on it. Pressing down firmly, taking my time because then it makes sure that it adheres to the tissue paper. There we go. Completely different than the other pulls that I've made on my jelly plates, so that's why I wanted to do this today, to show you different options. So here's my stash. Lots of fun stuff to use for this book. My Tiny Equals Big book. In this book, we're going a little further than we did in the first book. We're exploring more options, going a little deeper, a little more experimental, having a little more fun, being a little more daring. That's the way you learn and grow. I like those random squares. I like them a lot. Lots of fun. This is very good, useful stuff for my stash. So I'm going to start my first spread in week 2. I'm only going to do a couple today because this week because I spent time doing the tissue print and I thought that was really important to include it in the same video. There's nothing saying I have to do 6 spreads every week. I do whatever works. And before I can go any further, I want to dab that center spine. I am trying my very best in this second book to not deteriorate the middle spine, make it all that binding fall apart. I want to reduce the amount of wet water and paint that goes into that spine. So whenever I get water in there, like now, I quickly dab it, and it's protected beneath with the blue tape. So I'm hoping I'll do a better job this time. That's what I'm thinking. I like how that red spread. By the way, this is a new red. The other one was quinacridone red. This is a different red, which is a little bit warmer. But I'm finding both the bottles of red have a lot of pigment in them versus the other colors. So be mindful of that. I am so sorry this segment of the video, I didn't look up and realize that the book was a little bit up too far on the table. I apologize. I'm so wrapped up in what I'm doing that I don't always look up, and if I do that, then you see my hair in my head, and we don't need that. Good Lord, we don't need that. So I'm smudging this around, and I want to incorporate that tab. I don't want it to look like it's just a tab on the edge of the page that doesn't match. I want it to become part of the spread. I'm adding more water, and I'm adding nickel azo gold with my soft, long bristled brush. And even though I've touched the very middle there, there's not a lot of water there, so it shouldn't leak through that badly. But just in case I'm dabbing it, not bad. And I've got a little bit of texture where the red is because I pressed down quite firmly with the paper towel and it left a slight, ever so slight imprint of the tissue paper. Now I'm just darkening the nickel azo gold a little bit. You know I'm going to be putting the printed tissues that we've just made, I'm going to be putting one over top of this. So I like to have a bold enough color underneath so that the contrast shows up very apparent when I put the tissue print over top. So I want that tab, I like how that tab is incorporated into the spread now. I'm trying to show you my thought process. I'm taking different prints and rotating them around, deciding what I want to do. I did like that. Originally I thought I would use one of the other ones I did, but I like this one a lot, so I'm going to use it. I like that grid pattern, basket weave, whatever you call it, with the squares on the right, and I am tearing it a ragged tear along the sides so that it's not an obvious straight tissue line when I glue it down. There is another way of doing this, which I will show on the next spread, but this is the first option. So I think I like that on the right. I'm just toying with the idea of which orientation. And then I like this wonky script on the left. They're different, but I like that. So what I'm going to do, I've decided I like these two together, so I'm going to cut the left print to fit the page so I don't have a lot of tissue left over later to cut off the edges of the pages. So I'm going to use my matte medium. This time as well, I'm trying not to put so much matte medium in the middle spine of the book because that's where everything sticks so badly. So I'm going to spread matte medium over this page, but try to keep the center spine dry. I'm doing the whole page even though I'm only going to put that basket weave on the right. It kind of glazes the page. And I'm putting extra on the right because I know I need more there to glue down that tissue print. And I'm placing it so there's a bit of a border around the bottom and right and top edges of the colored background. I didn't want the print to touch the edge. Isn't that fun? That's so fun. I'm rubbing down fairly firmly that remaining matte medium so that it's not too tacky. I'm kind of trying to minimize it. And now I'm giving a good coating on the left page and wiped off in the middle spine again so I could keep that dry. So it helps to cut this to size, then there's less cutting later on. And once I put this down with matte medium, the magic begins. Look at that. This is so fun. I am just crazy in love with this. Lots of fun. And as you know, I like to write quotes in my soul journals, so there is room on the right there. I'm kind of planning in advance that I won't do anything there. I'd like the idea of down the road, not today, but down the road, I might write a quote there with a Posca pen. And if I do, it'll probably be white, or maybe the dark red, the dark pink. So I'm giving that a good dry. So now there's residual where I'm pointing there. You can see there's chalkiness from the tissue, and you can see a little bit of the edge of the tissue paper. So I feel like if I get a fine brush out and water it down and then dab it into this Nicolazo gold, maybe I can minimize some of the effect of that tissue, let it dissolve into the page. Sometimes it works. And in doing so, I'm enhancing, I'm bringing forward that white script. The colored background pops to the back, and this white script from the stencil pops forward. I love creating illusion of depth. And I'm using that same paint to kind of dab it and spread it around in other areas so that it doesn't get too dark. I'm only trying to accent a little bit of it, not make it any darker. So see how that makes the white script detail pop? That's fun. So some of the edge of the tissue there where I'm scraping didn't really come off, and it didn't mask it. Well, it masked it, but it kind of enhanced it by making it darker, but that's okay. I'm not going to get upset. This is just a little paper journal book. I can't get upset over things this is my soul journal. This is about living in the moment and having fun playing. It's not about the results so much as just what I'm doing, getting lost. I am so in my zone right now that I'm not thinking about anything that's going on in my life. And what I want to do here is I want to make that tab not stick out on the ledge. I'd rather bring it forward towards the center of the page, illusion-wise anyway. So by adding a little more Nicolazo gold, kind of incorporates that tab into the spread. And I'm enhancing a little bit more on the right and the bottom. Again, that's a little bit watered down. It's not full strength, so I like that. And now I'm going to do a little bit more there, and then I'm going to do the pink. Again, I'm very gentle on the color. I didn't want to make it darker. I wanted to blend it. All I was doing there was sort of taking the eye away from the edge of the tissue paper. Now I'm wetting the brush with water first so that when I dip it in this red, it won't be so strong. But it will be strong. stronger than I hoped for. So I dipped it again in water. So what I'm doing is painting a little bit like I did with the Nicolazo Gold, but I'm going to dab it there with paper towel to minimize some of that. I want it to be a little more distressed. So in doing this, I'm taking away the chalkiness that was left from the surface of the tissue and making the paint be more obvious. I want to draw the eye away from the fact that it was a tissue paper glued on top. And I think it's working. That's really fun. I'm doing a few random areas as well. Not trying to make it perfect, but just trying to cover a little, but not all of it. Again, I like the eye to move around the page, and I think it's fun to have deeper levels and shallower levels and just play with the depth. So I'm doing a similar thing with the red on the top right. Again, that brush was dipped in water first so that it wouldn't be so strong. And I'm hitting all the interior boxes. And that just makes that white grid pop forward even more. That's a lot of fun. When I do this kind of detail, I'm really lost in the moment. This is pure mindfulness. It gives me a lot of joy to do this stage. And I took some of the red again. Again, it's watered down, and I'm smudging it this time with the brush, pressing hard and smudging, and then delicately doing the boxes. And this way, I'm just tying things together, playing with depth. And when I take the top off, oh my goodness, I'm so happy I didn't have a big spine with bleeding paint this time. I'm very happy about that. So let's keep trying to do that. Good practice. So I've got a bit of color on the top right there from behind. This is called a water brush. It's got a receptacle there for water. So if you put water in there and then brush around the outline instead of tearing, when you do tear it away, it tears away very easily, and it kind of dissolves some of the tissue. So that's a good trick to use, but I didn't use that because I can't seem to unscrew the receptacle from the nib of that brush. So if you've got any secrets to how that works, please tell me. I've bought 2 different sets and both ones got stuck and I could not ever add water afterwards. But I wanted to show you that that is a tool you can use. I just haven't had success with it. So on this new spread, I'm doing a lot of this green gold, full strength on the left, and there's more water on the right, so I'm letting it spread and become brighter as it touches the water, and I'm making sure to get that center. And I'm using my finger to spread it around rather than spraying water, because I know if I spray water, it's just going to fall into that middle seam, and I'm trying to avoid that. So if I use my finger there in the center spine to spread it, it won't saturate that middle spine area. And now on this side, I'm going to put a little more. I'm going to spray water and let it run down. I didn't like how muddy it got on the lefts there, so I'm dabbing it. And then I'm going to do this again. I'm going to let that blue, which is brighter blue, naturally spread down. Look at the interesting texture there and shapes and pattern. I don't know how much of that will show up with my white print that I glue down over top, but I wanted to have a few busy areas and a few areas with flat, solid paint, just to see. Now in that top right, because I had that smudge, I'm going to use my Nicolazo Gold. Now you see the top left of the spread has very strong blue. I want the top right to be very strong Nicolazo Gold, more amber. So I'm going to add plenty of paint in the top corner there, smudging to make it less dramatic in the middle, and dabbing to make sure again that the center stays fairly subtle. And I'm dabbing more so I can make it stronger. Like I want to balance the left corner with the right corner by intensity of color. I wet the brush again and stuck it in the paint, and I'm dabbing it, making splashes. Again, I'm trying to make a contrast with very minute little patterns and big areas of solid color. And again, hard to say how that's going to show up with putting the print over top, but I'm giving it an option of having two contrasts. And that bottom right, I wanted to put a little blue to balance the blue in the top left over to the right. Again, moving the eye around the page. These are things you have to think about when you do a canvas. You don't want unbalanced, you want to balance things. So I'm adding a little bit of blue so I've got splashes in blue, nickel azo gold, and the green. So a little bit of busyness contrasting with the solid. Giving it a good dry. And now I'm adding a little bit. There was too much white in the spine there because I purposely left that without a lot of fluid paint. So now I'm just dabbing while it's on the brush without any extra water. So it shouldn't have bled through the spine. It should have been fine to sit on top. But it did encourage, it eliminated that white stripe up the middle spine. And I purposely did a little darker green over there. So now I've got this cut to size. I'm not going to use it as it is. I'm going to use parts of it, even though that looks quite fun. So I'm thinking the plan is to for sure use that right third. And I cut it away with scissors to be very exact. And I'm doing the same here. And what I'm doing is I'm cutting within that transparent line so that no white shows up on the right of that. Unfortunately, on the right spread that I did first, there was a little bit of white, but I'll get rid of that. I'll show you how. I'm not sure I'm liking this. I thought it would work. I thought I'd try that as well, but I'm not liking it. So I'm thinking I don't like it. I'm thinking I'll do something completely different. So I'm bringing out all my choices of the squares. There's the first pull, the second pull. That's pretty strong and bold. Kind of fights with the tissue on the right. That's kind of neat, but I'm actually really liking this one. I think I like this one the most. Going back to look at that one again, but no, I'm back to this one and I rotated it. I like how distressed it is and random, and there's a few patches of blue and green where the squares are missing. So I quite like that. It's very organic. Just marking where the top is so I can cut off. Again, the more I can cut the tissue paper now, the less I have to cut it later. And I had extra bits of the squares that I held on to because I'll need them. So I'm going to spread matte medium all over both pages. Again, I'm avoiding the middle. This is fun. Here's the magic again. I'm crazy in love with this. I think that's fun. Really fun. And then I'm using that bit, which is different, but why not? What the heck? I just love how the transparent lines pick up the color below. You couldn't paint that on now and paint those swirly lines where they're changing in color. That has to be done in layers like we did. And while it's wet, you're able to pull towards the back, pull away from the page, and I got rid of it so that later I don't have a lot to cut away. Now while it's still wet, I'm using my fingertip. There was a little bit of white there because when I cut that, I didn't catch all of the white, so I'm scraping it away with my fingertip, and that's working nicely because the paint was still wet, or the matte medium was wet. Now I'm painting extra boxes, painting them down, gluing them down with the matte medium, making sure I press the middle seam so there's no glue there. And every little bit of scrap that I've got with these little squares, I'm adding it. It's very random, but I'm adding every little bit that I have. I like that it's random. I think that's funky and fun. I found another little bit, so I'm putting that down. That's fun. Now you could leave this as it is if you like a lot of white. There's nothing wrong with how this looks exactly like this, but you know me by now. I like to take it a step further and show you even more how you can take it to the next level. It's your choice. But if I don't show you this, you won't know. So I'm taking the green And I'm purposely going over top some of those white squares in a very smudge-like way. And it was fairly watered down. I had water on that brush first. I quite like that. I didn't want all the perfection of from left to right all over the page having white squares. I like that it's undulating between white and color. And now I'm doing the same thing with some blue and spreading that around. And I'm enjoying how in the middle here it's turning into a little bit of an aqua because it's hitting a little bit of that green and turning it into aqua. I think that's quite fun. Really happy with this. I hope you like it too. I think this is so fun. My first tiny book was a lot more dreamlike and misty and calm, and this book seems to be more funky and fun. And I kind of like that because depending on my mood later on down the road, within months or next year, whenever, I could pick up the one book if I need to be brought down a little bit and be made more mellow, or I could pick this book up when I'm very mellow and kind of humdrum and need to be perked up a bit and feel funky and fun. So I like that they're both a little bit different. Look at there, I did another good job. There's just a little bit of mess on that top left, so I'm putting some white paint, which is high flow acrylic, and smudging it on so that that will dry white, and when I next do that spread, I'll have a clean page. So I'm giving it good dry. Now, before I took the highliner pen and added some white squares, this time I'm showing you could do the same thing with a Posca pen. They're both acrylic paint. It just depends on what you've got on hand. And I just wanted to, because I eliminated so much white, I wanted to, in a very random way, pick up some of the white squares. And now I'm enhancing at least the first row of these white squared patches. I want to make them more white, pop forward more. Same with this whole bottom third section. I'm going over that to be strong white. And then in those last 3 squares, I'm only doing the bottom bit, and then I'm going to smudge it upward. So I like how I've brought the eye around the page, and everything is a little bit different everywhere. And I'm going to enhance just a little bit of the Nicolazo gold, and I watered it down a bit first, and then I took a little residue from the brush onto that paper that I had there. So that it didn't go on full strength, and I'm also dabbing back with tissue paper even more so that I'm enhancing that color but not making it too bold. I'm going to dab that white at that with a tissue paper again. Again, this is playing with depth. I love creating depth and illusion. So I'm going to smudge a little bit there and then dab it with paper towel. Straight down and straight up. There you go. That's fun. So this is turning into a very geometric kind of pattern. And again, in the first soul book, I didn't do that so much. But this one's more playful and fun. It's still painting for my soul. Sometimes it gives me joy to be a little more bold. And also what I'm trying to do here is show you how to step outside your comfort zone and experiment. So I'm kind of experimenting from here on in as well. There's some things I wouldn't normally do, and I thought I'd give it a try, and I liked that. I'll look at that fondly someday, and it'll put me in a very happy, playful mood. So nothing wrong. And again, I'm learning what patterns. I don't know all the different scenarios. I have to play and learn and explore just like you. So this is a new spread. I did a lot of mark making on it this time. I'm trying something this time. I'm trying to make a busy mark making and busy surface so that when I put whatever tissue paper I pick down, I'm going to try a different angle this time. And I can't explain it until we get there. So I'm just moving some paint around again, as you notice, I'm using the same 4 colors kind of in this whole book, and that's so that you can learn and explore. I think it's very good to learn with fewer colors so that you get techniques down pat, and then later on you can play with more colors. It's all up to you. You can pick however many colors you like. I'm just using about 4. I didn't like how muddy that got, so I dabbed it away while it was still wet. So I clamped that down just because it was rolling upward and I wanted to have everything hold in place. And again, this looks pretty messy. As you know by now, my abstracts, the middle stage like this is always very messy. You have to have faith. And I'm using a little bit of water to spread that up and blend it a little bit. But that nickel azo gold went down very strong and bold. And that's because I did not treat the page first with matte medium. And so it got soaked right up into the texture of the paper. And once it's soaked into the paper, it's pretty hard to lift it back off. Lesson learned. I did that on purpose, by the way, but I wanted to show you that that's, if I wanted to have that spread more, I would have painted it with matte medium first. So I've got a stencil that we did earlier. I'm cutting around all the shapes because I don't want excess tissue on the rest of the page, at least not now. So I'm cutting around all the outline of the white with scissors. It was too intricate to tear, and because I just wanted strong white borders, cutting it seemed the most sensible. And I'm just playing around with orientation, and now I'm putting the matte medium down. And again, I'm not going to put matte medium in the center, keeping that dry. And as soon as I get close to it, like there, I'll just use my finger to smudge any of it away. So let's get this first one glued down. So in this case, I wanted a very busy background. Then I wanted to put a white print over top. And then I was thinking, let's play around, which you will see, with taking that white and painting it solid colors. Again, this is just, I haven't done it before. I'm experimenting just like you. We may not like the outcome and we may love it, but nobody can say I didn't try. And again, I'm still in a state of mindfulness and play for my soul, and that is the whole purpose of this little book. Outcomes are secondary. So I've got the next one placed. I'm trying to capitalize on the whole outline of that. Pasting it down, spreading quite firmly to make sure it adheres to the page. Giving it a good dry. So yeah, that looks like a real mess right now. But again, I want to take the outlines. There's a lot of green over there, so I'm going to use green on the left side of the page, the left spread. And what I'm doing, and again, you didn't have to be an artist to paint those lines. They're already there. All you have to do is take a brush. I wet it with water first so it wouldn't be too strong with the green, although I like the strength coming right out of the bottle. And all I'm doing now is painting the white that I see. I'm not being extremely careful, but I'm being fairly careful. So again, like it or not, this is just another technique I thought I would try. I haven't done it before. And I don't even mind that that green there blends in with the background. It's kind of interesting how it slips in and out of the background. Again, this is experimenting. Later on, if I don't like this page, someday down the road I look at it and I say, oh, that's just horrible, I can paint over it. Now I'm starting off with a bit of green there, but I'm going to switch to blue. What my purpose is to put a little green down, and if the blue happens to touch over there, it might turn into a nice aqua, and I don't mind that. So we'll see what happens. I'm going fresh from the bottle with the blue, full strength. And again, I'm just following the pattern from the tissue. I'm not making anything up, it's already there, I just have to follow the pattern. The blue's going on a little more streaky, which is kind of interesting. Each one of these high flow acrylics is slightly different the way the pigments are. Anyway, I'm not sure I'm loving the deep rust color as part of the background. I'm kind of thinking that makes it all look a little bit dirty. But some of you might like earthy colors and you might love this. And again, you could do the same technique, use the same stencils, follow everything I did, but use completely different colors and you're going to get a different outcome. This is just stepping outside the comfort zone, people, and seeing where I can learn and grow. If anything, if I don't end up liking this, I'll learn from it that I'll never do this combination of that rust with these two again. Who knows? Because normally that rust I use as an accent, and I usually don't do. In this case, the three colors are fairly consistent as far as impact, and perhaps I don't like them all together being so strong together. But we'll see. I won't know until I try, right? Just going over with some more of the green because I wanted to make a bigger impact. If you have to turn the book, you turn the book. And the harder I press down with that brush, the bolder the color comes onto the page. I'm starting to like it. I'm having to get used to it a bit. Sometimes this happens, I'll finish a page and I won't like it, and then later I'll look and I'll absolutely love it. So perhaps, perhaps you should put aside your criticism and just go with it. So that's okay. It's not bad. But I've got another plan. As you've seen in my other spreads that I've done, I quite often get a mixture. I'm looking for a bowl. That's dry paint in there, by the way, so I don't mind putting some fresh. So this is a typical thing you've seen me do, 1/3 white and 2/3 matte medium, so that I can make a semi-transparent glaze of white over top part of these areas. What I'm trying to do is go within the middle of those shapes and soften it a bit with this transparent glaze. So I'm giving it a good blend. I'm using a mid-sized brush. Yeah, so I'm trying to sort of paint everywhere that those blue and green lines are not, everywhere where it's within and without, and subduing the background, making it a little bit more dreamy. And I'm hoping in doing this that the blue and green outlines will pop more to the foreground. And what I'm hoping to do is settle these foggy areas into the background. So it's making them more subtle. And it's making that rust color not quite so strong. And it's making the page not so busy, because it is very busy, especially on the left there where I haven't finished. So again, it's worth a try. I didn't get where I am today without experimenting and trying, so I'm encouraging you to do the same. The whole point of this channel of mine is to empower you to do something fun in your life and get your mind off of things and learn and explore. And if you end up being an artist out of it, hallelujah. But it's just mindful meditation, painting meditation. For years I've wanted to teach art therapy, so here I am. This is what we're doing, art therapy at its best. Years ago, I had a vision of doing art therapy in workshops, but I think this is even better because now that YouTube is around, and it was around before, but not so much when I was thinking about this. Now it just facilitates, it just allows me to do painting therapy for a much broader range of people. I mean, I'm reaching people all around the world, and that just makes me so happy. There we go. That's a whole different look. Not sure if I'm still loving it or not, but I'm going to sit with that. Oh, so what I thought I would do is enhance these shapes even more. So by getting out the white Posca pen, and I'm basically putting a thick outline around all of those shapes. And what I'm hoping that will do is separate the background from the shapes a little more strongly, gives a stronger border, so that the green and blue shapes will pop a little more. That's my goal. We shall see if it works. I'm not filling in all of it, I'm just giving outlines because I want to leave the glaze as it was and just hopefully have this outline stand out above the glaze. I'm kind of liking that. Whoa, that came out. Sometimes these Posca pens come out. When you press too hard, they bubble, they make a blob of paint. So be very careful. It's kind of a learning curve with them. So practice on spare papers if you're not used to them. But just don't press too hard. If you have to press hard to activate the paint, do it onto a separate paper. I'm actually liking this effect. I think it worked. We shall soon see when I'm finished, but I think it made the difference. It made the whole spread a little less busy and a little more interesting, a little easier to look at, if you will. Careful that you don't touch the right spread with your palm. So I'm not setting my palm down, I have it raised. So there, I'm kind of liking it more. I might still change it, but for now I'm going to leave it. So thank you for joining me. Have a great day. See you soon.